Welcome to the Fukushima death cult with Count Chocula. Here we go. Cesium has a 30-year half-life and is present in the Pacific Ocean as a result of nuclear weapons testing in the 50s and 60s, and will be for a long time. It would take 10 half-lives, or 300 years, for it to go down to 1,000th of the energy level, or the ability to be detected. In other words, you'd have to wait 300 years for it to go down to a level that's 1,000th of what it is now. 10 half-lives. Okay? Or it was when it started. That's how you can tell most of it. Now, let's go on to the next one. Iodine 131 has an 8-day half-life. So, after about 10 weeks, it'll be 1,000th of the intensity you would find, and might show up as just being background material. Because iodine 131, cesium, and other elements actually do occur naturally from other things. But anyway, because there's a 2-year half-life for cesium 134, it will mostly be gone from the 1950s, because let's say that would take 20 years for 10 half-lives. And you shouldn't detect it in the environment mostly. And that's cesium 134. Okay? Any detected in seawater samples must have come from Fukushima in 2011. Because you can't say it came from Chernobyl for some reason. Oh, did I shoot it in the butt? Let's continue. Memes, the title of the video is going to try to squeeze together all of the fearmonger titles that all of you are literally drooling over, because they prove what you want to hear. Don't watch this video. 2013 bluefin tuna overfishing had reduced Pacific population of that fish and other fish to 3% or 4% of its normal levels. Well, what's with all these fish die-offs and beachings and stuff? Well, if you get rid of the food that feeds you by overfishing, because there was a massive trade war thing happening in 2013 and 14, before this, 2012 too, it might affect whether or not predatory fish and other animals can also exist in the ocean. But that doesn't explain the beachings. Yes, you saw a record number of beachings of various animals, but you won't look up what happened before Fukushima. What else happened in 2013? 50 bluefin tuna were caught off the coast of California. 2012. May, August. 2013 it was reported. And they were found to have trace levels of radiation in a study of radiocesium as a tracer in highly migratory species. Older fish had no cesium 134. Only background levels of cesium 137. They weren't ingesting it, and it's not bioaccumulating in older fish. But small fish recently migrating from Japan had white muscle tissue with cesium 134 and elevated 137 in it. Determining only one thing, that it takes more than a year for the cesium 134 and 137 levels to reach pre-Fukushima levels. How many fish were found? Out of millions caught, they found 50. And all of them were determined, because of something you can check with them, to have physically come from an area directly next to Fukushima. But what level was it compared to the naturally occurring uranium and the barnacle level? No, really. It was detected. It was background levels for the older fish. What about the little guys? Elevated levels, yeah? How high? Compared to background level of uranium naturally occurring and other elements. 50% increase. We're going to get to the background level in a minute, but I'm going to talk about that. But here we go. 2014 December, the highest Fukushima disaster radiation level was detected just off the California coast. And that's the headline you saw. Along with all fish in the ocean test positive for Fukushima radiation. But in both cases, I'm going to tell you something about this. where was this radiation level detected that's the highest on record as of 2014? It was 1,600 miles west of San Francisco, halfway to Japan. Something like that. Well, how high was it? 50% above background, induced by radiation and radioactive material in the ocean. Exactly 50% above background. Well, that's dangerous, right? No, it's 500 times less than you find in ordinary drinking water from wells and from rivers because of uranium. And this is funny. About the same level of safety compared to, well, it's still 500 times less radioactive than your drinking water, and it's nearly 1,000 times less radioactive than bottled water. Now I'm going to repeat this. Bottled water and tap water had more radioactive material in it than this water sample. Because the ocean has a habit of filtering this crap down to the bottom of the ocean. Even the fish had a 50% increase in this case, or 50% increase in the water, which would make sense, compared to all the other radionucleotides from nuclear war bombs being detonated in the ocean in a wang shaking contest between us and Russia. I'm going to repeat this. Your tap water is 500 times more likely to give you radiation from uranium and other elements. But yes, they found stuff from Fukushima, and it jacked up the background radiation, which is still safer than your tap water in Canada, for fuck's sake, by 50%. Same thing in the fish. In 2014, Fukushima material had technically reached Canadian continental shelf, doubling background radiation originally caused by atmospheric nuclear weapons test fallout from a much more close set of detonations. There were detonations that were closer to the Canadian coast because of America and Alaska. Yeah, we did that. And it was predicted to achieve a maximum value before declining back down by 2021. Headline. But when was this maximum supposed to occur? 2015 and 16? In 2015, National Academy of Science Canadian proceeding study of all Pacific fish testing positive Fukushima radiation, ongoing epidemic of animal deaths, and infestation of beachings on the Pacific Ocean. Mainstream media is not covering it correctly, because what they said is, according to the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, Canadian researchers really said Cesium-134 and 137 from Fukushima was detected on the west coast after 2 years, but the radiation levels didn't pose a threat to the public health. Also during this time, marine life beaching incidents happened on California's shore, induced by biological causes from viruses and bacteria in the ocean, pollution off the coast of California and every other country, Chinese dumping of garbage overboard, and quite importantly, again, did I mention overfishing causing the animal-plant population ratio to screw up to where we even had red tides. But no, that's caused by Fukushima, and none of the radiation could have ever come from Chernobyl. With a 2-year half-life. I guess 20 years, yeah, it couldn't be Chernobyl, right? Is Chernobyl actually contained? Okay. So now we go on to the next stage. 2015, samples of ocean water, marine organisms, seafloor sediment, groundwater along the coast near the reactors. Extreme study internationally and by ordinary citizens of Japan. Student projects, college projects, projects from every country, because this became a national interest. They haven't stopped anybody from sampling the materials off the coastline because you can't legally. You can't stop them. Collected, processed. Levels 1,000 times lower than during the peak release in 2011. In 2015, one British Columbia salmon out of 400 was found with low but still detectable levels of the isotope Cesium-134, which is a 2-year half-life. Just detectable. Gamma ray spectrometer. Universally it is acknowledged as a marker for Fukushima radiation at that point, but would be roughly equal to the amount you would get from eating any salmon as a result of naturally occurring radioisotopes like uranium, since, again, it was effectively maybe 50% above background by using it as a marker for the ocean water. Actually, it was lower. It was 20% above background at this point. And it was rated at 10,000 times lower than the maximum allowable level in food set by the Health Department of Canada. And this was then posted, finally, in 2016. And has been reposted by people who say, last year, December, when they mean really 2 years ago, December, and they keep reposting the story without mentioning what year they were posted. So they keep reaging it saying updated. So legitimately they can say they didn't mean to mislead you by saying it happened last year in 2018 when it was not even 2016. It's 2015. December. So every single posting you see about the fish in Colombia or the seafood testing positive recently, it was 2015 and 2000 whatever. Everybody lied about the time and date stamp. Because the only thing you see at the top is the update timing. This year, the current year. 2017. This is a funny one. A media study, cross-reference study of reporting about various subjects due to fake news stories, showed that no Fukushima scientist had ever said fish in the Pacific Ocean will never again be safe for human consumption due to radioactive contamination. All quotes led back to fearmonger websites, which usually ask for PayPal and GoFundMe donation. But they're not motivated by anything to lie. On a side note, many of these websites were found to refuse to provide citations for where they found their scientific research from, and then that's where I found these listings. So someone actually went back and did the checking for me in 2017. Actually, no, that was a Twitter post quoting me. I already did this story. I was like, why is this familiar? Why is everything showing a 2017 archive date? Oh, that was me. I did this. Somebody reposted my video description, so I'm just remaking it to get it updated. So anyway, 2018 September, death after radiation exposure and work after nuclear accident, first accident worker recognition. Fukushima #1 nuclear power plant worker death of lung cancer death for the first time in case of fatal accidents death, lung cancer attributed to it. Okay. And then finally, one alt-right physicist said there was no Fukushima disaster as well, and they were cited by one of these articles as proof that you shouldn't regulate radiation and nuclear power. So let's review really quickly. Of the three main elements people use for fear-mongering, iodine and cesium, one of the variations of cesium has a 2-year half-life. The others are more likely from the 30-year half-life from the Pacific Ocean experimental testing in 1950, which we did sometimes very close to shorelines, which would account for the excessive levels. Background levels are variable all over the planet, and the maximum levels that were found traceable most likely to Fukushima instead of all that nuke testing and Chernobyl must be Fukushima, was found to be 50% above background based on uranium, which is commonly available. Bluefin tuna and a few other animals and some plants were found over this period of time to have 50% or less above background level. Meanwhile, your water supply is allowed to be 500 times worse. Please go visit Detroit and talk about this. And everybody keeps citing various sources and reaging them by changing the date at the top of the page so you think it's a recent study when it came out a long time ago, and even I can't confirm that completely. And the only reason I found out about this is I ran into somebody crib noting my own video showing that this media study showed that no scientist ever said that. So that's pretty much it. Again, I find myself being my only citation source in some cases. So I didn't include a link to that. I just rebuilt everything here. I figured I should use the original sources. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And no, those were all